Bom dia! How are you?
I'm living the dream. There we go.
Here you are.
You look fantastic. Here, I got to show you something.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're on, let me see if I can make this work. 1 second. Yeah, okay.
This is strange.
So yeah, it is strange. Wait, I'll come back. Sometimes you have to disappear during a Zoom.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Very
there,
nice.
now it works. Now it works.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a kind of
Okay.
magic.
Yeah. So, how are you? How's your son?
Yeah, he's fine. He's almost
How
taller
old?
than, he's 13.
11. Wow.
13.
13.
Yeah.
That's more than 11.
He's almost as tall as me.
Well.
It's not hard.
My son is taller than me now. Did you meet my son? You know my son.
Only on the internet. We chatted once. How old is he?
He's 32.
Yeah.
And now I'm a grandfather.
Oh, great.
Which is my best role in life. So, how are you?
I'm fine.
I see you hung up your juggling clubs.
Yeah. That's what they are used for now, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not training at all at home.
Oh man, the news from Brazil is horrible about Bolsonaro and the fire. Oh my God.
And they're probably all true. What gets to you?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
That's terrible.
Yeah, we're having a really hard time here because of the policy that they are engaging. And
how do you live? You can't work.
Yeah, we're not working. Sometimes we have some online shows.
Yeah, but
there's like a government support. Bolsonaro was against it, of course, but the other politicians could.
What a guy!
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done a show in more than a year.
Really?
Yeah.
But
I've been teaching.
You've been
teaching? I've been teaching ever since for over a year. I have 2 workshops at a time, just like the barn, but only 12 people. And the advantage on Zoom, you know, remember I would give you an assignment, like do something with cleaning or do something with the morning. Yeah. I give those same assignments. I have to make a 1-minute video and send it to me. I give them comments and they make it again. So it's an advantage. It's actually better than live because we can work on things.
Yeah, yeah.
I had one workshop in Brazil that Pedro organized.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And it was really fun. We're going to do another one in the fall.
Great, great, great. I'll spread the words.
I'll let you know.
So, do you consider yourself a Jedi?
No. You know, a funny story. Years ago, I was on a TV show in Holland. And also on the show was Popov, Oleg Popov, who was the last of the great clowns from the last generation. And he didn't speak any Dutch and he didn't speak any English. And he came in with a big fur coat and looked around, and he had an assistant running around doing things. And he did his show and he left. And after my show, I was sitting there. And in those days, I wore a red nose. And the host said, "That was the great Popov. How do you feel about that?" I said, "Oh," I said, "this is such an honor to meet him. He is the king of the clowns. And me, I'm just a red-nosed proletariat clown." Many years later, I got an invitation to be in a show called The Kings of Clowns, the Könige the Clowns, with Oleg Popov. And there were only 5 of us. And we toured for a month around Germany, and
Wow,
we became good friends. It was
great,
such a thrill to have him as a friend.
nice. I think I saw a picture of that gig.
It was with Peter Shove, David Shiner, Rene Bazinet, Oleg Popov, and me, the five clowns. And Oleg was, I don't know, 85 years old.
Wow,
But he was still Popov. He really had it.
nice.
So what a treat.
Yeah, I suppose it should be really funny, the show.
Oh, it was a wonderful show. Yeah.
Great.
We had a bus that had an espresso machine in the bus. That's how good a tour it was.
Yeah, that's how you measure it.
That is the measure.
And Avner, most part of your work is based on breathing.
Yeah, life too.
Yeah, which is something simple and basic, otherwise we'd be dead. But at the same time, it's for artists, it's so hard to get to that point of consciousness, you know, that you're just basically doing what you do every day in your life, every time.
Yeah.
How did you get to that conclusion?
Here's the issue. As you know, many teachers tell their students, get out of your comfort zone. And I always tell my students, don't do that. Make your comfort zone bigger. Because when you go out of your comfort zone, your body goes into what's called freeze, fight, or flight. That's what our ancient ancestors did when they saw either a lion or a little deer, because both of them are the same color as all the grass that they were hiding in.
Mm-hmm.
And when they saw the grass move the wrong way, their nervous system went, oh, I got to either run away or I got to go fight. Well, that still exists. And what happens when we go on stage, and I always ask students, how many of you have some anxiety about performing? And they all raise their hands. We all do. It's universal. So if that going on stage isn't inside your comfort zone, your body goes into freeze, fight, or flight. Now, what's interesting about freeze, fight, or flight is it's subconscious. It's below the level of awareness. So your breathing stops being congruent. And the audience feels that. And that's why I had all those years, for more than 30 years, watching students do numbers at the barn, and they weren't funny. And I realized their body was communicating fear. And that became the basis of the work, that you have to first just be comfortable on the stage in a productive rapport, as they say in Brazil, relationship with the audience, where they're breathing with you. Yeah,
totally. And we jugglers, we feel that, well, I felt that during the workshop at the bar, that usually the audience applauds you when you drop something. Yeah, it always happens because you're so tense and nervous, because juggling is not easy. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes it is easy, some tricks, but you try to make them think that they are harder than it is.
Yeah,
which is something that you also teach. Don't try to be interesting, be interested.
Yeah.
And it just changed my mind, the mindset actually, because after the workshop, they started applauding me when I finished the trick and just with them, just breathing.
And it's a much richer applause.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you an interesting story. I was working with a juggler who was doing 7 balls, which is not impossible, but it's hard enough.
Yeah.
And this was 10 years ago when not a lot of people were
Yeah.
doing it. And he would juggle 7, and he did it long enough, they would applaud, but it was obligatory. And when he caught them, it was a panic. And then they would applaud his panic. And if he dropped it, he would panic again, go pick it up and juggle again. And then the applause became less. What he came up with was juggling 7, which was the big thing in his show, and then just stopped and caught 1 ball and held his breath like you're doing right now. Looked at his hand, and looked up. And when he looked up, the applause was thunderous.
Yeah.
Because what he was sharing was his satisfaction at juggling, instead of telling the audience, you should clap now because I did something hard.
Yeah. And even more, I did something hard that you are not capable of doing. Instead of I did something, of course, it's hard, but here you can save 1 ball by the end. So
Yeah,
each one of you can do that.
yeah.
And to me,
Nice.
that's the
I
difference.
hadn't thought of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it changes everything, doesn't it? That just that little moment to breathe out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what the audience is doing when you breathe out? They also breathe out.
Yeah.
When you're juggling, they're also holding their breath. And you have to let them breathe.
Yeah. I love it.
That's neat.
But-
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I know that you practice martial arts and you study
Okay.
neurosciences and stuff, things like that.
Yeah, I finally got vaccinated. I've been
Whoa.
doing, I do Aikido, and I haven't been able to do it for more than a year. And I've been going, our dojo has a practice, but it's a big dojo, only 6 people, and they don't touch each other. So we have this very funny thing, because we talk about connecting your center to the center of the other person. And you don't, when they grab you, you don't move their hands, you move their center. So we have these big exercise balls, and you're holding it, and someone grabs your ball, and you can move your center. And when you move your center, the ball moves. When the ball moves, their center moves, and you can throw people like in Aikido.
Yeah.
But now we have this whole martial art, people walking down the street carrying beach balls. So that's been wonderful, going back to Aikido. Yeah, I'm doing some gardening, some woodworking. We have 2 big dogs, so I take them out on the beach every day for a walk, which is really good. I thank them every day for making me go outside.
Great. What's the relation for you between Aikido and clowning?
So Aikido, and for me, and also hypnotherapy, they're all coming, it's like a funnel, and they all come in the wide end of the funnel, but when they come out, they're all saying exactly the same thing. That you find everything interesting. And that, so in Aikido, if someone is attacking you, you don't run out to fight them, and you don't run away. You wait calmly. And this thing is coming. So we have a saying in Aikido: if a piano is falling off a building, if you're not standing there when it lands, it won't hurt you.
Yeah.
So we don't have to fight that weapon or that hand that's coming. We just have to move out of the way. And we don't have to move a lot. We just move that much, and it goes down. And now we're behind the person, and we can see where they're going. Well, that's the same as clowning. Something happens. If we panic, we're running away from it. If we try to stop it from happening, we're attacking it. But if we watch it happen and go, interesting, then we can deal with it in an unexpected way.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. So for me, Aikido is the physical embodiment of the philosophy of clowning.
Great. I would love to practice it. Yeah.
Oh, you'd be great at it. You'd love it.
Yeah, Danilo used to practice judo. And I could see that they would try to teach him that basic philosophy, actually, which is using the force of the opponent to create a space and to make the moves. But it was all about strength.
Yeah.
Always like fighting. They're fighting, basically. And in Aikido, what I see is like almost like a dance.
Yeah, and once it starts, you don't know who's attacking anymore.
Yeah. And
we practice being heavy but relaxed. We never grab the other person, we guide them. Nice. Now that's more advanced, because in the beginning, our ego wants to grab, and just start to learn. And I'm doing it more than 30 years, and I feel like I'm just starting to learn. I'm a real beginner.
Nice.
What's wonderful also is size and strength don't matter. Men, women, big, small, doesn't matter at all.
Like circus.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you love Brazil.
Yeah, I do. I really like Brazil.
And I say because you've been here for many, many times. But how do you feel about Brazilian audiences compared to other places in the world?
It's a funny thing. They're some of the warmest in the world. There's something about Brazilian people, it feels to me, they're not afraid. They're not afraid to be excited about something. For example, some countries, people don't want to, they start clapping, but they look around to make sure other people are clapping. They don't want to be the only one. And I noticed that in Brazil, people are very comfortable with each other. It's also, I never got hugged and kissed so much as in Brazil. My God, after the show, men, women, children, they just come and give you a kiss.
Yeah.
It's not, in America, they put you in jail for that.
It's so just like that.
I mean, and especially with students, I mean, once you know, I remember once I was in Sao Paulo, and there was a kind of some sort of street festival. Well, there's always a street festival. And I was walking with someone, and we ran into someone who knows someone that I knew. And for that, I got a kiss.
That's plenty. That's enough for us.
Yeah. So I've been in Brazil on Zoom also. I had that workshop, and I was just in Bahia for a little festival. I did a lecture demo, and maybe they showed my show. I'm not sure. By the way, my show is available now on Vimeo. On my webpage is a new little poster, and you can rent it for like 10 reais or something. It's $5.
Great, great.
We got a funny new, the eccentric principles.
Yeah.
So now there, I just put in. Actually, I took it off, but it was funny. The last one was don't be creepy.
Yeah, it's a good advice. That's nice. You've been teaching your workshop for a long, long time.
Yeah.
When did you start it, and how it evolved?
It started when I came back from the Lecoq School. I was at the Lecoq School in the early 70s, and I started developing my show, which was all skill-based: rope walking, juggling, acrobatics, balancing. And I was teaching some workshops of basically teaching the Lecoq philosophy, but not teaching clowning because I didn't understand clowning. And I think you've heard this story. I've been performing almost 50 years, and I still don't have a good definition of clown. And I had to give a talk at a clown convention, and I had dinner with the directors of the convention. I asked them, how do you define clown? These are all clowns. They didn't know. They didn't have a definition. It's like dance. How do you define dance? You can't. So I stood up in front of the group, more than 400, and they're all clowns with wigs and bow ties that are flashing and big shoes and costumes in primary colors. It was terrifying. And I said, clowning is a lot like pornography. You can't define it, but you know it when you see it. Another time, I was at a gala show of a clown convention. And after the show, I was sitting with the students and I asked them, what'd you think of the show? What they said was very interesting because it changed my understanding of clown. And they said, well, there were a lot of clowns in the show, but there wasn't very much clowning. There were people that were dressed like clowns, but they weren't clowning. And I started thinking, well, what is clowning? So to go back in history, I was at a theater school, and they had a Shakespearean actor from England who did a workshop. And after the workshop, the director of the school said, that was a wonderful workshop. Why don't you teach what you actually do? Because they taught theater games, theater philosophy, things that their teachers taught them. But what they didn't teach was what they actually do when they walk on the stage. So I decided then, okay, maybe I can derive principles from my own work and teach those principles so that each student can take their own skills and develop their own show. And that's what I started doing. And that's how the principles got started. So I wasn't teaching rope walking. I was teaching. So, I was the guy with the 5-minute rope walking act who would do anything to avoid doing it. And where that came from, I was working at outdoor festivals. I would tie up the rope between 2 trees and do my act. And I would get the biggest crowd of any performer. Then I would get down and start juggling, and people started leaving. So I would start to, what I devised, and it's the basis of my show, I would start to tie up the rope and see something in the audience, and I would do a little number that I had prepared, but it looked improvised. So I became the guy with the 5-minute rope walking act who'll do anything to avoid doing it. So it was all about, so that's the principle. I have to do this, but I don't want to. What am I going to do instead? And that becomes a comic principle of it for a clown. So I came up with a structure of clowning that has 4 parts. The first one is rapport with the audience. Julie and I, you studied with Julie, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss her
Another
so
Jedi.
much. Yeah, definitely. You know her book, yes?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So first thing is rapport with the audience. We developed a lot of this at the barn, that the audience is breathing with you, that you're being interested, not interesting. That's the first thing. You have to have that. And we've developed a whole bunch of techniques for creating rapport with the audience the first second that you're on stage. If you recall the entrance,
Yeah.
Once you have that, the second thing is purpose. You have to have a reason to go on stage. It's like the time I was in a show with another comedy act and a bunch of handstand artists and jugglers and real high-level skill acts. And it was a night where nobody laughed. And the other guy asked me, what do you do when they don't laugh? And I had a real insight. I said, thank God, I've got enough problems without people laughing at me. You need to have a reason, a purpose. So in my show, I go out to clean the stage. If nothing happens, I finish early and I can go home. But something always happens.
Always.
Okay. So I'm a little bit of a juggler. So the next thing, so first you've got rapport, then purpose, and then skills. What skills do you bring to this? So I'm a juggler, so I'm dropping things and manipulating the objects. That's my skill that I bring to this. You may be a storyteller, you may be a magician. Just this week, I had a student who's a hand shadow artist. There's an exercise where you get on a chair and you can't get down. So he had a flashlight, and then by accident, he made a shadow on the wall of his, well, first he couldn't get down. He made a shadow on the wall and his hand turned into a horse. And he went, ah, and then he made a shadow of himself getting on the horse.
With
and
the
he was
hands?
able to get down. Yeah, it was
Wow.
fantastic.
Wow.
Because that's his skill. So rapport, purpose, skills. And then the last one is where it kicks into clowning, which is where you do something in a way that the audience goes, wow, do that again. How'd you do that? Now, what you don't want them to say is, wow, don't do that. I had a student who was doing a little number about ironing, and she couldn't get the sleeve to stay on the ironing board. She went, I know how to do this. And she picked up her leg and put the sleeve on her leg and then ironed it on her leg. And the audience went, whoa, don't do that. So you've got those four, that's the structure of clowning: rapport, purpose, skills. And up till then, that's just theater. And what kicks it into clowning is when you solve a problem in an unexpected way. So clowning is really about solving problems. I forgot what the question was, but that's my answer.
And that's perfect. When I first heard about you, actually, was a clown from Brazil, a girl, Gabriela Argento. She's fantastic. And she was directing a scene that I did. It was a juggling act, and she was directing it. And she said, do you know Avner? And I said, of course. I've heard about him, but I had never seen your show. So I said, okay. And she said, you must see it because it has a lot to do with your work. And most of it, it has to do with your personality.
Interesting. Did she study with me?
I don't know, but she's a close friend to Marcio Balas.
Oh, Marcio, for sure. What's her name?
Gabriela Argento.
Go look her up. That's really nice to know.
Yeah.
Did you hear the story of how I met Marcio Balas?
No.
Marcio had come to Maine to take a workshop with Tony Montanaro, who founded the Barn.
Yeah.
And he had a day off, and he had same thing. He had heard of me, and he heard of Peaks Island. That's all he knew. So I was standing in front of my house, and this tall, skinny guy comes walking down the road, looking around. He says, Alex, sorry, do you, and it's a crazy question, do you know where Avner lives? I said, yeah, I do. Why are you asking? And it was Marcio. So we were having a party that day, and he stayed and had dinner with us. He may have stayed over, and we became friends.
Nice.
So just walking down the road.
He
knew I lived somewhere on the island.
Yeah, well, it's an island.
Yeah,
So
you
sometimes you
can't get
find
lost.
it. So nice. Anyway, so I found out about the workshop, and it was great. And you've been teaching it for so many years, so it's just great.
Yeah, more than 30 years. In fact, we
Yeah.
canceled it last summer. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep teaching online. These Zoom workshops are I think, really, really good.
Yeah, but the experience of being there for 2
Yeah,
weeks at the bar
yeah,
with
it's
everybody.
neat. Yeah, it was great when you came. That was it was a wonderful year,
Yeah,
and it was great that you came. You know,
yeah,
one year we had people from 9 countries in the 20 people at the barn. On the
great.
Zoom classes, we had 34 countries already so far.
That's great. I remember you told a story about 1 or 2 Japanese students that didn't speak English at all,
Yeah, yeah,
and they understood everything. They did
somehow.
everything. Yeah.
Oh, we had a student on Zoom in Japan who didn't speak English. He had a friend who lives in New York, a Japanese woman. So he was on the Zoom call at 3 o'clock in the morning. His friend on New York was also on the Zoom call, but on WhatsApp, she was talking to him and translating the workshop.
Great. Yeah, let's use technology for its best.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your references? Well, you told about some of them, but back then and nowadays.
Well, I think Chaplin, Keaton, Grok, George Carl are the pantheon
Yeah,
of, and it's something interesting, that comment, there are lots of clowns, but no clowning, not much clowning. I realized all of those clowns that are my references, as you put it, not one of them looks like a clown, but
yeah,
they're doing clowning all the time.
that's
There's not one wasted movement. Even the look of an eye has a feeling of whoa. So that really formed my opinion of clowning, away from the costume, the makeup, the look like a clown, and to do clowning. And I tell students who come as clowns to the workshop, put that stuff away for these 2 weeks. You won't lose it. But think character instead of clown. Who
yeah,
are you in relation to the world, in relation to other people?
yeah. To me, as a skill-based guy, I love skills. I love juggling and unicycling. I mean, everything related to that.
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time with that during a period of my life, because I really felt I didn't know what was wrong, but I felt something was wrong. Maybe the day that I achieved 6 clubs, I've been practicing for 6 months to get to 6 clubs. And when I did a flash and caught everything, I looked around and no one was looking. It was not a performance, I was just practicing in a huge gym, and no one was looking at it. And I said, man, I'm just bleeding now to do it. I have pain in all of my body. And maybe it just happened this time because the wind was perfect and the light was perfect. So maybe everything got together to that point. I'm not going to repeat it every time, I can't do it. And for what? When I finished, a little child will look at me and say, okay, do it with 7 now, please.
That's right.
And I can't do 7.
The curse of juggling.
Yeah. So that's when I realized. And by that time, I met you. And the first day when I got to the bar, I was really anxious. And I was with the last group of people that arrived. So it was around 7 p.m. And you said, okay, here we are, meet everybody, name tags, and now we're gonna juggle. I said, oh no, man, it's not happening. I didn't come all the way from Brazil to juggle, really. I want to go. I want to get rid of that, you know.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but of course, when I started juggling, everybody came. It was okay, good. It's like a juggling workshop. I was teaching people, and I was talking to you about it, and so I said, okay, there's something here, you know. And then by the third or fourth day of the workshop, you said, don't be afraid to come home, to come back home. Relating it to the skills. I mean, don't be afraid of doing what you do best. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong about juggling. Just do it in a way that you feel comfortable with that, and you want, because I really love sharing that with people, with the audience. And so after a few years, I realized that nowadays I'm in love with dropping stuff, because that makes people see that you're human, just like them. And in circus, they teach you to be a superhuman, and it distances the audience from you. And those two brothers that I talked about, the Irmão Saúde, they said something wonderful. They said, when you go to Cirque du Soleil, you see someone doing some crazy acrobatic stunt, and you get out of there thinking, okay, that guy's great. When you go to pop culture or popular culture show from Brazil, like a cultural dance, something like that, you get out of the theater, think that you were great. And it relates a lot with the way you
That's
see.
interesting.
It's lovely. Yeah, I think everybody should take your workshop, really.
Well, it would get crowded. Writing a book. I'm writing a book now.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we're trying to figure the title. One title we're thinking of is Clowning is Like Pornography. That would get people's attention.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, the first guy that I interviewed, he's called Hugo Pozzolo. He's a clown.
I know that name.
Yeah, he's a clowning, and he was the former Secretary of Culture from the city of São Paulo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, yeah, and he has a definition not of clowning but of circus shows. That circus shows don't need a dramaturgy. You know, they don't need to tell a story. They're just like pornography. You know, you're not there to see the story. It's just like that.
Right.
That's it. So great to see you again.
You too. Well, thank you for including me in this. It's quite the honor.
No, I mean, for sure.
And great to see you.
Yeah.
So give everyone a big kiss for me. Remember, if you can't succeed every time, learn to fail magnificently.
And nowadays, make sure someone is recording it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.